big whips, big joints, big blunts, it's the Buckeye way. We rollin' nothing but that loud Buckeye loud pack. Let's roll up Ohio. Heavy bass hits, horns rise, mastermind cannabis, Ohio Cannabis Live. We here to unite. Let's light it up. Ohio where we roll high, big whips, big vibes, big joints, big blunts, Buckeye loud for life. From 216 to 614, we keep it lit. 330 and 740, we the ultimate. Nothing but that loud pack, the pride of the state. Roll it up, light it up, let's elevate. From Akron to Canton, Columbus to Dayton, Buckeye buzz so strong, there's no debating. You can see the smoke rise, we shining bright. Ohio loud got us glowing in the satellite light. Ohio Cannabis Live, yeah, we here to stay. Uniting 88 counties in a major way. Let's roll up Ohio, let's toke and chill. Big blunts, big joints, yeah, you know the deal. Buckeye loud pack, we blazing the game. Ohio forever, remember the name. Let's roll up Ohio, we rollin' proud. You can see the smoke from space, it's that loud. From the fields to the streets, we feel the thrill. Ohio's the anthem, let's roll and chill. We on a whole new level, Ohio's the vibe. Big clouds in the sky, Buckeyes ride or die. From 419 to 513, we keep it tight. 937 and 440, we ignite. Big joints in Columbus, big blunts in the south. From Toledo to Cleveland, we lighten the loud. Ohio's united, this our time to shine. 88 counties reppin', all on the grind. Put it in a joint, light it and smoke it, Buckeye pride strong. Ohio's the focus, from I-70 to 71 we ride. Ohio Cannabis Live, keeping us unified. Let's roll up Ohio, let's toke and chill. Big blunts, big joints, yeah, you know the deal. Buckeye loud pack, we blazing the game. Ohio forever, remember the name. Let's roll up Ohio, we rollin' proud. You can see the smoke from space, it's that loud. From the fields to the streets, we feel the thrill. Ohio's the anthem, let's roll and chill. Ohio, Ohio, let's rise together. Buckeye pride, yeah, it's now or never. Big clouds, big vibes, we set the tone. Ohio's
What's up, everyone? It's your boy Mastermind here with Ohio Cannabis Law. We are streaming live from the Columbus Metropolitan Library located here in Columbus, Ohio for the first, I think it's the first in a while, Ohio Cannabis Townhall. We have quite a few people here, and I'm sure this room will probably fill up here. So again, if you are just tuning in to this, make sure you share this with many people. Tell them to come on down. It's a library. It's a beautiful place. If you've never been to the Columbus Metropolitan Library, Columbus, Ohio, you are doing yourself a disservice. It's a beautiful place to come. It's very peaceful, and it is very, very nice. So again, thank you to the Columbus Metropolitan Library for allowing us to have the Columbus Cannabis Town Hall here. And again, thank you for Representative Muhammad, who is here with us as well, and his colleagues for coming. I appreciate that. Thank you again. And thank you for everyone else again who has come here. And so right now I'm going to introduce my panel. I'm going to start with my moderator, Emily from Penelist. Thank you for being here. And Emily is one of these folks who seems like she is everywhere when it's about the people and about trying to come together and trying to get these things worked out. So I see Emily at the State House, I see Emily at every event, and Panelist is a processor I work with here in Columbus, Ohio. And they have a wonderful company here. If you are interested in learning more about processed cannabis products, I encourage you to contact Panelist for a tour. It is open, they want people to learn. And that's part of the reason that we were having this cannabis town hall, is to hopefully help people find ways to learn more about legal cannabis in Ohio, now that it is officially legal for adults over 21 and those with medical card 18 with an approved medical condition under the medical marijuana program. Okay, so next I have Ronnie Smith, and Ronnie Smith is a veteran, and he also is a home grower, and he also has his own business, and he is here to help us learn what some of the challenges are for veterans who are navigating the legal cannabis landscape here in Ohio. I also have my good friend Josh from Application Girls Cannabis. And Josh is a part of the hemp program. Josh and his crew are making hemp products legally. And they also have drinks now. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm sure I'll find out sooner or later if it's good or not. But him and his team and many others have been at the forefront of trying to figure out how we can unite the hemp and the cannabis industry together in Ohio. So we're all working together to serve Ohio voters for what they voted for. And that is a good, quality, legal cannabis program that is what the people want. And we don't want people to feel like this is some new way to criminalize it or change the stigma back to what it was. We're trying to move forward here. And that's why I called this meeting. Now last, I have a good friend here, Tim Johnson. Tim Johnson is former law enforcement. He also is a veteran as well. And he also has a company called Cannabis Safety First. And Mr. Johnson has been in this way longer than me. He has been a fixture at the State House. Everybody knows Mr. Johnson. I'd like to thank him and his wife for coming here tonight. And I'm glad that we are all here because this is an all hands on deck thing. And we hope to have more town halls all over the state to continue to try to help people find answers and information, and also just to help lawmakers understand what voters' concerns are, because obviously there are some things that we need to do to improve our cannabis program and to strengthen it to make us more competitive with you know who. I should not say right now, but y'all already know who I'm talking about. And don't think because I'm wearing blue. That just happens to be my favorite color, okay? Don't do that. Now, another gentleman I have here with me is Gerald Moore. Gerald Moore is a well-established professional athlete, all-American athlete. He also has a nonprofit program. He also has his own channel called Ohio Cannabis Report. And he also is a father, and he is also a medical cannabis patient as well. And he brings to the table the athletes side of it. He also creates something called Athletes in Cannabis, which I think is a topic that could be its own town hall, right? But thank you again, Mr. Moore, for coming as well. So with this panel, I'm hoping that I'm giving you a diverse group of people that you can ask questions to. It won't just be me talking this time. I know people say, hey, Anthony knows everything. I don't know everything, everybody. But I have tried my best to surround myself with people who are more knowledgeable in other aspects of the cannabis world, because we can all continue to learn and grow about this plant and how wonderful it is and how it unites us as a people, as a community. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let Emily talk, let you learn a little bit more about her, and then we'll go on down the line, and then I'll pass it over here to my group friend, Mr. Moore. Thank you, Emily.
Hello, is this working? All right, awesome. Well, first of all, I want to thank Anthony, so we should all give him a round of applause. This is really important to us together. It's a lot of work. Thank you so much, Anthony, for bringing us all together and having a dialogue. I think especially to all of us up here and in this room, it's so important for us all to talk to each other, right? Humanize the industry, humanize the space, just open the opportunity for dialogue and education within each other. It's incredibly important that we all understand each other's different perspectives, and that way when we do go down to the State House, we understand what the problems are and what we need to address. So thank you all for being here as well. My name is Emily. I'm with Panelist. As Anthony mentioned, we are a standalone processor located probably about 10-15 minutes from here. And we do love giving tours. We think it's an incredible opportunity to bring people through, see the facility, speak to our employees, see how diverse, and we have people from all walks of life. One of the things I love to talk about with this industry is the economic impact. It's a pathway of entry for many, many people. Our industry touches almost every single facet of the workforce, and it's something that we as an industry we're incredibly proud of as well. Hiring people from all walks of life, all different backgrounds. So, all right, and we'll go ahead, we can do some brief introductions down the line, and then I do have a few cards here with some questions on, and I think we all kind of talked earlier too, we would love this to be just kind of more interactive, instead of us all up here just kind of talking at you. We'd love to have a dialogue and questions and that sort of thing. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me? Is it working?
Yeah, 3 minutes.
All right. My name's Ronnie Smith. I'm from Athens. Anthony, thanks for having me up here. I'm from Athens, so I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I went in the military out of high school. I was in a lot of trouble with the law. Went in the military. Still got in trouble in the military. Didn't get to go to the unit I was supposed to go to because I come home and got 9.5-minute police chase in Athens. So it was constantly alcohol for me. And then I got in the military, got what to do. We started snorting Percocets every day. So we snorted Percocets the whole time I was in the Army. Got out of the Army. I did deployment in Baghdad, Iraq. Come home, got out, did the prescription pills, got with a chick, helped her raise her kid, and just had no connection, right? I didn't have no kind of connection. I don't know, I just had no connection with anybody except the pills. So went through that, started going to music festivals. We split up in 2014. I got with Southeast Ohio Normal at the time. I was the Veteran Affairs rep, and I became the vice president, fought for legalization, went to shows, but I was always on drugs, so I wasn't all the way with it. I was telling Q the other day, I got petitions signed and wouldn't even turn them in. I remember I had a stack of petitions I didn't turn in. I would do half the work with everything. So went to prison, got involved in a really bad case. Anyhow, I went to prison, changed my life, got out, and in prison, wasn't much in there I could see about weed. 420, I watched the History Channel, I listened to Burner, I listened to Mendo Dope, but I was putting together a plan, right? When I got out, I knew I grew a bunch of really good genetics, and weed was on its way to getting legal. I thought it was too late, but I kind of hopped out the right time. Weed's legal, I got out, know some homies, round up some old genetics, then got some new stuff, built a company, teach class at the Cannabis Museum in Athens, Ohio. I post up a lot. I'm going to do it a lot now. I'm getting a lot of stuff donated to me for these veterans, weed, RSO, oil, seeds. So I'm going to be posting up in Athens at her shop and different places with my tent and giving free stuff to veterans all over, man. So if anybody knows any veteran that need help, I'll send them stuff in the mail, whatever. I'm just sending medicine to veterans. So that's what I'm doing, along with build my own company so I can continue giving to these veterans. So thanks for coming. Josh, sorry. This is Josh. Sorry, I didn't introduce you.
Wow, I don't know what to say after that. That's awesome, my man.
Change 10 joints, even though he was
Oh yeah. I'm Josh, just blessed to be here. Awesome conversation. I guess I'm more on that outlaw side too, where I was part of the legacy market or the black market for a really long time. And then I had my daughter who's about to turn 6. So I've spent this time trying to legitimize my lifestyle, my culture, and get it into a market that's actually regulated, that can support the type of culture and history that I've grown up with. I don't want to not tell that story. I feel like Ohio's cannabis has missed this representation hardcore. And once again, we've tried to delay the tier 3 growing due to what? Because, I just want to get into the door. And I think the craft cannabis is the spot for us to put a little mark and record history of what it was like, people like Ronnie and people down in the Appalachian region and elsewhere that are just trying to record this, be acknowledged, and not be pushed out of the industry. So Appalachian Girls Cannabis, we started really trying to produce non-adulterated hemp products. And we've just been begging at the door, like, let us into cannabis any way that we can get into cannabis and legitimize ourselves. That's the way that we're going to scrap in and get in. I got a lot of issues with the way the hemp program is right now, but I'm sure we'll get into that more later. I'm just happy and blessed to have this opportunity and to see so many of you guys show up today, right? What was it, 43 testimonies? I mean, I am like honored to be a part of this crew, to be a part of this culture as we figure things out and meet legislation where they are, right? We're hoping the culture and legislation can kind of merge into a nice, happy medium. Amen.
Let me give a shout out to Mama Mastermind real quick.
Mama!
Anthony, thank you for putting this on. Thanks everybody for coming today. We got a couple of owners here, Emily's bosses, but I think maybe she might be the boss sometimes. Anyways, thanks Bill and Peg for coming with Panelist and the support that you give to the community. Thanks everybody else again for that. It was at the State House. Just about everybody in here was at the State House today. And just to set things straight, these guys weren't running from me. So get that clear. I don't think you were. I don't know. But celebrating my 50th year in the cannabis consumption market this year. So that's how long I've been around. I enjoy what I'm doing. After I retired from law enforcement, I got into advocacy at the State House. And from there, it led to a medical program, a hemp program, and then policy advisor on the issue 2 that we have right now. That was the main purpose of House Bill 160, trying to clean all that up and make it workable for us. I think we may get into some of it later, but as far as what to do at the State House, I think it might be a topic for later, isn't it, Emily? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll discuss some of that. But again, just thanks everybody for the support that you give the community, for the patients, the consumers, and so forth. Representative Muhammad, we really do sincerely appreciate you being here today. That means a lot to us. Out of 132 legislators, you showed up. So we do appreciate that. Hopefully 1 or 2 more of them may show up again. But he is one of the great guys that's down there. And with that, it's all yours, Danny.
All right, so we have 4 questions up here. The first one is, beyond the written law, what is stopping the legislature from allowing home growers to test and process, and in turn legally sell to appropriate consumers? Example, med card holders, 21 and older. Who would like to answer that one? Tim, go ahead.
In short, absolutely nothing. If you want to take your homegrown weed, the weed you purchase from a dispensary, the weed you don't purchase from a gas station or whatever, and take it, your homegrown whatever, you can take your stuff wherever you want and get it tested if you want to do that. My suggestion is that you buy from a credible, tested, regulated, licensed dispensary, or that you buy from or purchase or gift from friends, your own homegrown, reliable source. You don't go buy your food at the grocery store, you don't go buy your whatever else it is that you might be consuming from just anybody off of the streets and so forth. So just be careful with where you purchase at, what you're consuming and so forth. Make sure whether it's been tested or not. Just make sure that it's a safe, clean product for you.
That's a great point. I think what's incredibly crucial to highlight here is that all the products that are available in the current dispensaries are all triple tested, which means that from the biomass as a processor, from the biomass that we purchase, we get the test results from there. We know exactly what's in it, and then we process it through remediation and all of our extraction equipment. We get that oil that we've created, we send that to testing, and then we do final product testing, which is the gummies, distillate, for the vape carts and topicals and that sort of thing. And then end product is tested as well. And so any product that you do purchase inside the dispensary, there's a QR code that takes you to the certificate of analysis, which is a COA. And then additionally, there's complete traceability, so seed to sale tracking. So at any point, if there is an adverse effect or something happens from a product or, from a product that's purchased at a dispensary level to a consumer, there's traceability within, minutes. And so that's why we see these recalls that happen very timely, because we're able to see the whole life cycle of that product. And so that is a major delineation between what we see, quite frankly, in a lot of other states as well, as Ohio is very strict about their testing, which we actually take a lot of pride in as operators. So that was a great point. You two have anything you'd like to chime in?
I would like to chime in just a little bit and just express how we existed in agriculture and produce consumption now. Like in all across sustainable agriculture, something you really want to talk about is knowing your farmer, right? Knowing your farmer is one of the most important things for consuming any agricultural crop, right? You're keeping the money local, right? Sustainable agriculture isn't just the economics, it's also the social and environmental impacts. So we got to think about entwining all three of these things together when we have a conversation about not only who we want to support, but what type of process we want to take when it comes to our consumption of cannabis, right? I love the work going on in Ohio right now. I love to know the fact that if I don't know my farmer, then everything's been tested. But when you're looking to purchase or not purchase, be gifted from people under the Homegrown system, I think it's important that you know that person, right? That's how we existed in the black market for a very long time with now no medical incidences, no anything, because we knew who he was getting that supply from. It wasn't a gas station where it's a wild, wild west where you didn't know who it was linked to, right? And the same goes with supporting at the local farmers market. You go down to your farmers market, you meet the people that are producing your produce, and you take the whole equation into account, right? People want to really fantasize about what organic gardening means. Well, I would urge them to think more about what's the more sustainable approach, right? Because if you're buying organic lettuce shipped in from Silicon Valley in California where they're depleted with water, and then now they're using all these resources just to put a little certified organic sticker on your package, I don't think that's nearly as environmental as knowing the farmer down the road might have used a little bit of 7 dust, but you can shake his hand and you can know who he is and you can keep your money local in that environment. So I encourage you, when you're buying at dispensaries, learn about the brands, right? Understand what that brand's bringing to the table. Sorry, I'm ranting now. I do this. All right. Anybody else? Yeah.
I'll talk a little bit about the way, I'm kind, I guess I'm an outlaw for sure. So the way I do things is I go to a bunch of hot events that are in Columbus, Cleveland, pop-ups where there's, security with guns and there's boys in there flipping packs and there's processors, they got rosin. So everything's out there at these events, but I know quality product, and there's a few processors up here like Dexter's Laboratory, he's in Columbus. A guy named Red Hairs, they're really good processors on that side of things. So I'm just letting y'all know how I do things. Is I support my Homegrown and also support their products. So that's where I get my stuff at. So it's all about what you're looking for. It's all out there. If you want craft, if you want from dispensaries, anything you want's out there. Just try to get it from somebody you trust.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you got a question? What's up?
So that was actually my question. My perspective was more about what is more stopping Joe Schmo from growing in his basement or his barn legally as Homegrown to then go to North Coast or Act Labs as a single person to get then a metric tag that is then been approved and tested and processed through state licensed processor or have their own self-certification who goes through similar credentials where they can safely process, and then in turn, as a single person or a very small entity, small group of people, sell that to consumers, to other consumers. And so, to me, I just think there's a huge barrier of entry that you have to have a lot of money and a lot of backing to have this be accessible. And so my perspective is to just advocate for the small person, to have that opportunity to make that livelihood, because it is happening out there regardless if we acknowledge it or not. So we might as well make sure it's safe, and we're getting the economic impact, the social impact, so it's all, it's not in dark.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a great question, and I think that's something too that we're continually having the dialogue done at the State House. And a lot of that is encompassed under the Tier 3 licensing, which would be what you're referencing, just a pathway of entry for home growers like yourself that just want to enter into the legal market. So I think especially between Tim and I and a lot of the activists here, that's something that's been very top of mind for us to be able to have that entryway, to be able to have your products tested and sold in a dispensary, very similar to the state of North's model and other states nationally, which we know that have been successful. So that definitely is something that we want to continue to push and have that dialogue.
Yeah, let me kind of wrap it up with that. What the issue is, Dave, on that is the rules don't allow for private individuals to use the licensed testing facilities at this point. We've requested it. The problem that you're going to run into is the monetary cost. These companies aren't cheap. There's a lot of money involved in it. And for you to actually take your product, you buy an ounce of weed at a reputable dispensary. Well, if you're getting it at a dispensary, I don't see why you wouldn't go get it tested. It's kind of a waste of money. If you've got your own home grow or somebody's gifted you something of that nature, and you want to, just for kicks and giggles, you want to go do it, what it might cost you is probably not going to be worth that. There are kits out there I know of. I think they're down to like $35 a kit right now. I don't know how many kits that are tests you can get out of them.
85 for potency, 465 for full panels. So
Okay.
if you can justify 465 to know what's in it, then you can send it out of state. Ohio just doesn't want you to do it. Sure.
Yeah, there's nothing that stops you from getting your own, product tested. It's the point. It's the cost. Is what the problem is. Like I said, I know that there's kits that are $35. You can buy them online. I don't know how reputable. The people I've talked to said that they're very, that they're legit. But to spend that every time, I think, like these guys are saying, I'm going to go to a reputable farmer. I'm going to go to a reputable dispensary where I know the product's safe. I'm not going to go down, downtown and buy it in the back alley or something. I said, come on, let's face it. Like you guys are all aware, finding cannabis in Ohio is like finding chocolate in a candy store. It's everywhere. So stay safe.
So one of the things that I would like to touch on with this is before we had the privilege to actually go in and buy something that we knew was state tested and had COAs, is when you know your farmer, you ask them to produce things like their saturated paste test or their standard soil test, right? Because the whole thing that they test for in the state program is mycotoxins, heavy metal consumptions, right? So when you know your farmer, these barriers are kind of limited. So that's how you do it on kind of the cheap, is like, buy it from people that aren't just sticking it in any old thing, and talk to them about their soil. If they can talk to you about the soil, and if they can talk to you about the way that they ward off pests and disease, then chances are pretty high that they got a decent enough grasp on it for you to not be scaremongered into thinking that it might kill you.
All right. We're going to move on. Questions are flooding in, so thank you. All right. We're going to. Let's see. All right. So this one is: when are legislators going to codify protections for medical patients? Example: disability, parental laws, family law, etc.
Say it again.
Yeah, one more time.
It is a long one. These are long. You guys are doing so
English. They don't understand.
When are legislators going to codify protections for medical patients, for like disability, parental laws, and family law, etc.?
Actually, in the medical program, we have rules in there now for child custody protection. As far as employers, they have a right. It's their decision whether they want to do testing. But as far as for patients, codifying it, So a lot of what I work on at the State House is getting things into law that do protect the consumer and the patient, because I don't know how many of you, well, we've seen the debacle today at the State House with testimonies. They went from, all of a sudden, since we were opponents, we lost 2 minutes of speaking time. So we were limited to 3. So that irritated me a little bit. I kind of let them know about it, but my whole thing is this, is what we have to realize when programs are created around the country, there's 2 things that they focus on. They create rules for the legislative or for the regulatory body. They create rules for the license holders. They leave out the consumer and the patient, which is criminal justice reform. As in Ohio, we're still operating on criminal laws in the revised code, the 2925 section, 4911 for OVI and so forth, from the 1980s and 90s. That's how old these laws are. So no state has ever been inclusive to update their criminal justice laws. And that's what, hopefully here with this issue 2 revision stuff in House Bill 160, that we'll be able to see some of this happen. Such as, housing. We'll just go with housing. There's 2 factors of housing. First off, if it's a federally subsidized housing you're living in, give it up. Federal government's going to say no. They find out that you're consuming cannabis in that facility, whether the landlord gave you permission or not, they have a right to redact that check that you get monthly to pay for that. As far as a personal residency, the person that owns that, if it's no different than them saying, well, I don't want you to smoke tobacco, I don't want you to have cats or dogs. But what we need them to know is not like, I think 160 wants to penalize them or something, or penalize us, is that they have the right to say, yeah, you can smoke cannabis in there, but I don't want you having cats or dogs. I don't want you smoking tobacco. They have a right. That's the property owner. The legislature has nothing to do with that. And I know we ask about it and so forth. We ask for fair housing and so forth. That is fair housing. Find a lease, a person that's leasing a property to you, or renting a property, asking if they're cannabis friendly. If they're not, move on to the next one. There's plenty of them around, okay, to find. But as far as codifying those patients, you are protected for child custody. And those, as I said earlier, mostly your employment. It's up to the employer whether they test or not. Yes, there's the drug-free workplace, and then there's workers' compensation, and there's unemployment and so forth. Those are federal programs and they're state programs. So under a state program, I find it hard to believe that under a challenge to any of those, that if something happened and you were terminated and you went to draw unemployment, and it was, which is a state program, you're legally employed in a state program. So how are they going to tell you no? So it comes down to getting an informed lawyer, counsel that knows what's happening and so forth, and you should be okay with that. And then from there, the codification, it's, we're working on it at the State House pretty much on a weekly basis, and we hope to see some of that language come through. 160 is not set in stone. So whatever you guys can supply to the State House, legislators and so forth, that's what we need help. We need support and backing on that. So, got a question?
That was actually mine. I want to add a little bit more
Sure.
to be clear. My question mainly was meant to specify for state-funded things like domestic violence shelters where patients are going in, women that have PTSD are being kicked out of shelters because they have a cannabis card and the shelter doesn't recognize cannabis as actual medicine.
Yeah, your issue there is it's a state program as far as what you're talking about. So that facility has the right, and most likely they're operating on state law, and they're going to deny you that as far as that service or that whatever it may be that you're seeking out. So yeah, it's got to be caught. Is it discriminatory and prejudice? Yeah, I believe it is. Especially when it's the programs in Ohio are state programs. With 2 of them created legislatively and one's created through an initiative. Either way, they're state programs. So a lot of stuff that the state operates on is still under the Schedule 1, under the Controlled Substance Act, at a federal level. In Ohio, our medical program is a Schedule 2, and our adult program is still a Schedule 1. So that's just unfortunate, that they're giving you that issue, especially being a registered patient. Eric?
You mentioned we made a lot of requests today about amendments. What do you think, just kind of in the same line, since they're saying it's not set in stone, we can produce amendments for them. How do you think we as a community, as somebody who's worked with them in the past, how do you think we as a community can come together? I know Matt is doing a lot of research on these amendments as well this evening. In your perspective, how can we find, as a group, get these amendments put together and submitted in a timely manner because they want to have this voted through by June?
I'm gonna hold that, I'll give you a little bit, but I'm gonna hold that for Rep. You wanna take it right now?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you.
Mic check, 1, 2.
Here we
Hey,
go.
how are you? Hi guys, I'm Representative Mohammed. First of all, thank you very much, Mr. Wiley, for having me. I wanted to, in response to the amendments, we are drafting a lot of amendments to fix a lot of these issues, specifically with some of the criminal stuff that Mr. Johnson was mentioning with House Bill 160, with landlord-tenant issues. There's a lot of problems there, a lot of issues regarding gifting that we have a problem with, transportation. So we are drafting amendments for those. So if you have ideas, of course, send it to Ranking Member Isaacson, myself, any member of the committee, to get that over. So, I mean, we're definitely on top of it, but understanding that we're getting some pushback. I've had discussions with Representative Stewart, and he's open to some of the things, but we're getting some pushback. So, you know, forums like this give us an opportunity to educate the public on what's happening and to show up, because they really are trying to sort of fast track this thing really fast without having public scrutiny be involved as well. So engaging and understanding what's happening is very key. So.
Let me add to that real quick. I can't ask you enough to send emails or make phone calls to legislators like this. There are a lot of great people at that state house. I've been there for 10 years. I've met a lot of great people. I've met a few that ain't so great. Anyways, I like working with the great people. That's how you get things done. You need to educate them as well on, as far as cannabis as we see it, and as well as they educate us on the legislative process. And emails, professional emails going to them, giving them ideas, help them write amendments that we're looking for and that we need to protect our community, protect our patients, our consumers, protect the license holders. There's just a whole lot to that topic that we could go on and on, I guess, about, but I think the rep covered it. You can't get enough language to them to review to come up with a good amendment for, you know, whatever sector of the program it might be.
Go ahead.
Okay, just a quick question around employment protection. I know in Florida, there's some cases, even in safety-sensitive positions, gentleman driving an ambulance, had a collective bargaining agreement, failed a drug test, sued the county for losing his job. He's protected and actually won. Are we seeing any cases here in Ohio yet, or litigation as it relates to patient rights and their medical cards?
I don't think we're seeing any cases that I'm aware of. I mean, I understand what the law says. Basically, it turns it over to the employer. It's what they decide they want to do. If you're a forklift person and you wreck your forklift, was it the pint of gin you drunk at lunch, or was it the joint that you smoked 30 days ago that's still in your system? Right now, what they would do, if the employer wants to protect themselves, they're gonna blame it on that joint you smoked 30 days ago, even though we know it's expired metabolite, it has nothing to do with it. But the gin probably intoxicated you. So we know that. That's how they get out of having to pay you workers' compensation or pay your claim, and then they can dismiss you and so forth. Typically in Ohio, and I don't know how many's aware of this, I think it was last year, maybe someone else might, Emily, you might remember. The state of Ohio actually permits now in their policies for 49,000, I believe it is, state employees, that if you're not carrying a CDL or a firearm, if that's not in your job description, you can consume off the job.
So
These are state employees. So as far as we want to get our way, we're at the State House, and I don't know if you're aware of that or not. Very good. See, we have a legislator in Ford there. But that's something, should something happen to get you tied up in the judicial system, there are a lot of avenues that need to be presented by your counsel, to the courts if it goes that far or whatever. That says, look, the state is letting their employees on their days off, their vacations, whatever, they're allowed to smoke, dab, take gummies, whatever it might be. So why is it us? Why are we being discriminated against? So yeah, I haven't really heard of any cases. I've been involved in several other cases, just not around that sector. So
This is for the whole panel. So would the whole panel support something like what the state did with if you don't have a CDO, not those high safety sensitive jobs? Is that something that the panel can agree on that would be good across the board?
For myself, for the last 5 years, I've actually introduced legislation for first responders to be able to consume while they're not on duty. From personal experience, I can tell you, going to work in the morning, some of the people that came to work with me, you can tell that they had a 12-pack, maybe a case, maybe a whole bottle of vodka or whatever that night. I seem to do okay. So it's noticeable. It's still that social stigma, that problem of legalization and so forth, and what first responders do, what emergency room personnel do, and so forth. But I think that, I don't know, I'll let these guys speak up for themselves, but I don't see a problem with discussing that. That's something I'll discuss with Rep. Muhammad. It's actually in my testimony on the cannabis revision bill that I had introduced. So it's nothing that we haven't talked about. It has been discussed. We just need to make some progress on it.
You're saying if we support like first responders be able to use it?
No, I'm all about first responders being able to use it. I'm talking about the safety sensitive jobs, driving 18-wheelers down the road, where ultimately your job can cause harm to someone else. Would you support someone in the parking lot at lunch, rolled up a big old fat blunt, they're smoking it and they got some really potent stuff in the dispensary, and they decided to throw a little rosin in so they got baked.
I hear you. If somebody's out there smoking like that, I imagine they probably smoke like me, and they can handle their cannabis. I smoke during my workout at the gym, man. I go outside at the gym and after Planet Fitness, and I blaze my dab rig, rosin pins, whatever I got in my pocket. I really do, man. And I smoke a blunt on the way to the gym in my truck. That's how I roll, right? I can. So everybody's different, but I feel like if somebody's out there comfortably doing that, then they haven't had any issues with doing that, right?
Okay.
That's how I feel about it.
I've had a CDL since 2012.
Yeah.
I'm an everyday smoker.
I think I'm like going back and forth between like, is this one working again? Oh my goodness.
So it is.
Is it working
Yeah,
now?
it is.
Okay. I think what it comes down to is impairment, because we all are so different. So like my friend here, he can smoke all of that. For somebody like me, I would be on the ground and out for a week. So I think there's a lot of differences from person to person, just different levels of tolerance. And I think, there have been various other state agencies that, we've helped educate on that level where there is different variability between person to person. But, you wouldn't be drinking, straight up bourbon and getting behind the wheel of, machinery and getting impaired and, operating heavy machinery. And that's why they have that built into their law, right? And so I think when it comes to cannabis, because we're all so different, there's still so much, I think, just collectively as an industry we have to learn about the plant just in generality, which makes it so exciting. But I think what it comes down to is it's impairment. If you are completely impaired, you shouldn't be doing that in general because you're risking other people's lives, let alone yourself, right? So I think, there's people that are on a lot of different other prescription medications, which is a whole nother avenue we could go down. But I think, personally, just my own personal opinion would be that it comes down to the level of impairment.
I would like to concur with Emily on this. Everybody's endocannabinoid system tone is different, right? So I encourage you to become familiar with your own and understand that greatly, similar to any drug, any medicine that you take, right? We really don't have a lot of laws revolving around, hey, this person took 10,000 milligrams of melatonin today and they're so impaired that we need to pull them off the road. Like those people that take melatonin, they kind of understand where they're at with melatonin, and they don't necessarily need a babysitter for every application of medicine that they're given. So it is a gray area that we need a lot more understanding about. But, you know, me personally, I know that there should be a, you know, even though maybe sometimes I
can't
do
smoke and
consume
drive, bro. He
too
can't.
much,
He can't smoke and drive.
I just know that I should,
can't
you know.
Yeah, I think it's a common sense thing, what we're having here, and I think this is something, when you come to the State House and you testify on this, be responsible about it. As they both said, you know, he smokes 10 joints a day and he can't drive. You know, he can smoke 20 and still drive. It's a common sense thing. Think of it this way, the stuff I've seen on the roadways, it comes down to this. Would you want your family member put at risk by someone that may be impaired from being under any substance out there? So, and you know, we know the thing, you know, start low, go slow and all that, be responsible, et cetera, et cetera. So as they've said, it comes down to each individual person, what they can consume, how they can still function and so forth. I know I can't hang with Ronnie. He killed me at the Candy Museum almost. So it kind of is what it is. Be responsible, you know, be respectful at the State House. When you bring that topic up, to let them know, you know, I can consume more than that person and I still feel safe. So I'll say this on that to close it up is, if you're going to overconsume and you get on the road and drive, be prepared to suffer the consequences.
Sure. Definitely.
Well said. All right.
You consider knowing your body, right?
Yes.
That's it.
I got one little follow-up.
Yes, sir.
I have one little follow-up.
Okay.
I think I was more leaning towards like workplace policy and how is the workplace supposed to like regulate that within their own workplace, especially with the insurance guy sitting next to me. What if the insurance company says, I won't cover you unless you're zero tolerance?
Know your worker.
No,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
no,
say.
not working. But it does shrink the job pool, and right now, that's not.
Yeah. We do have a national shortage in our workforce pool, and America's starting to realize this because of cannabis. I mean, as many states that have legalized now, and as many people that consume cannabis, it's obvious that's the problem. So if Joey wants to, as an insurance agent, write you a policy with a supplement to it that says, yeah, if you're a compliant medical patient, you have an affirmative defense under our contract with you, that we will still cover you. You might find another insurance agent that says, oh, hell no, that's a Schedule I federally, you're on your own. So it comes down to that, and it comes down to your respect for your employees and your respect, if your employee, if you permit that and they go out and they cause the death or bodily injury in a car accident, they're gonna come knocking back on your door saying, this is your policy, that's your employee. So just kind of a common sense thing. Be safe about it.
Most employers have the issue of the risk.
Yes.
That's the reason why the insurance.
Liability.
The insurance is the risk behind even the stigma of cannabis.
Yeah.
So.
Is that your insurance pitch?
Somewhat. So it's like.
When do you got a question?
So I just want to go back to what Emily said, and it does come back to impairment. In all reality, most companies, healthcare systems in Ohio that I'm familiar with, all the large ones, police departments, fire, don't randomly test. You go pre-employment screening. After that, I can assure you that all the medical workers that I'm familiar with in Central Ohio have consumed cannabis and various sundry pharmaceuticals because they have access. Doesn't make them a bad physician, a therapist, or anything like that. But they're not randomly testing at those places, but until you show signs of impairment. And there are companies that hire people to drive semi-trucks, even test for hemp and CBD products. And they bring it down that far on with big equipment and semi-trucks. If you have a CDL or an ODOT, will bring it down. But in all reality, big companies, healthcare systems, police departments, Tim can speak to that, I can speak to fire. They do not randomly test people unless you wreck your cruiser and quite frankly, this fool wrecked this cruiser more than once.
4 times.
And-
Nice.
That's at the record.
And,
Let me
you know,
close
they
on
do
that with
not
this.
test it.
Senate Bill 55 at the State House right now. Senator Manning, I've been working for 3 years with him on that. I actually spoke with one of the individuals who testified, criminal defense attorney testified today. I spoke with him afterwards, and we're going to address this further. Manning has conceded that there is no scientific value-based testing to prove cannabis impairment. So Senate Bill 55 addresses that. What he's looking at doing is removing the impairment clause, but then go to what's a per se clause. It's a trick question. Well, not a trick question, it's a trick statute is what it is. And I've already challenged him on it. So we're gonna say we can't prove that you're impaired with cannabis, but if you have a per se level of this much of THC in your system, then we're gonna go ahead and charge you for that and convict you on that. It's basically, it's impaired driving, in essence. The challenge to it that I got them scratching their heads on right now is, wait a minute, Senator, over here the state said that I'm allowed to participate in this cannabis program as a patient or as an adult. But out here on the street, if I get caught and I've got THC in my system, which the state says I can have, now you're gonna tell me there's another statute that says I can't have it in there. So they're two conflicting statutes. So, did you have something?
I just wanted to continue what your wife Wendy was saying and ask you, how do you feel about, it seemed like you had a lot of opinions or facts about this. So like the whole unemployment thing, right? So at this point, you know, if somebody wants to fire you, and then you can lose your unemployment based around that.
Ohio's an at-will state, they can fire you because they don't like the color shoes you wore today, if they set their mind to it, so it doesn't really, you know, I don't know. That in itself is.
I think the tricky question to that is this, and we're gonna use penalties. If Broderick comes in, blasted out of his head, and Broderick has an
Usually
accident
is.
in the facility, it's up to the owners of that facility how they file that incident report with the state for workers' compensation. They could say, you know, they could refuse or do a panel test if it's required. Sometimes it is, sometimes it ain't. And they could bypass, we're not gonna test for THC, we're gonna test for alcohol and these opiates, barbiturates, amphetamines, and so forth. And if we can find that in his system, well, then that had to be the cause. So, I'm not saying that cannabis was the cause. Maybe just water on the floor is what he slipped and fell on or something. So that's the cause to it. So it comes down to creatively filling out an incident report when there's an accident in any workplace of how that employer feels, I guess, about cannabis and so forth. That help?
Yeah.
Okay. I waive my time to you.
All right, so we're going
What's the
to,
nanos? What's the nanos on the testing on THC within your system?
For OBI?
Yes.
I believe it's at 5 right now per milliliter of urine, and I think we're trying to take it to 35, which is a joke. That's also been addressed. I think it should be up to 200. Because we know that everybody in the state of Ohio that's either a patient or a consumer, we're way over 35. All you gotta do is drive by Benelieves and smell that stuff and. Yeah, sorry, you guys had to be here, so you get picked up.
The recency is the issue, right? The recency of it, right? Like, so it's 28 days, they have no testing that can, 2 hours for it. Yeah.
The Highway Patrol is doing a roadside swab test right now, but it's for active THC, not an expired metabolite. And it can test anywhere from 30 minutes to 4 hours to tell that you have active THC in your system, a presence of it. It doesn't say you're impaired. It says that you have a presence, it's active. And that's a roadside for saliva. I would challenge that legally as to now you're removing a bodily fluid from my body without me being involved in an accident or without my permission.
Are they collaborating?
That's why we have what's a breath test.
Do they pair that with the physical test if they find active nanos?
Yeah, it gives an immediate thing. It tells exactly what you're, 115. I think it was, recently there was a case, someone had 213 nanograms, which is, almost like probably most of this room right here probably hits that on a daily basis. Pretty easy. So maybe some of us go way over it, so forth. So, yeah, it's.
Sean? Or you,
yeah, no,
Eric, sorry, Mr. Whited.
We've all had some fun today. So,
Mr. Whited.
Yeah, no, so my question, back to you, Tim, is actually just based from the law enforcement perspective. What is like the legitimacy and efficacy of field sobriety tests? I mean, if we, I know alcohol is often used as a first or a secondary, but if the whole idea is impairment, why can't we just, what is the potential of law enforcement having a field sobriety test, pulling someone out of a car and asking them to do a certain set of tests to prove that they are not under the influence, they can handle themselves and respond in time?
In Ohio, there is no efficacy, okay, anyways, in Ohio, field sobriety tests do not apply to cannabis. Do law enforcement still do it? Yes, they do. And of course, the driver falls for it. That's why, should it happen, you need a good lawyer that's informed. Make a phone call if that happens to you. If they're saying, if they're using the field sobriety as part of their case to establish that what they say is impaired or per se law, whatever it may be, don't be afraid, reach out to me, and I'll give you some guidance on attorneys that are schooled in that and know how to handle it, so.
Thank you.
Hi.
Riley.
Hi.
Oh, wait, excuse me, you got it.
I'm Ashley.
I just wanted to add, oh, sorry, go.
Sorry.
I just wanted to add one thing to Mr.
Yeah,
Johnson
okay.
briefly. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Johnson. So just, I think Mr. Johnson's absolutely correct as far as everything he said, because I practice criminal law and I do a lot of OBI work, and absolutely law enforcement officers are stopping people for the most minor stuff, based on just, your responses, your delay time, things that, again, are more so really behavioral, not necessarily an actual impairment, but they have the ability to stop and check you for that. And if you refuse, and that's what's called an administrative license suspension, and they still charge you with it. So this has been an ongoing issue. I think we're currently negotiating with some of the other members to get some legislation regarding these field sobriety stops, because they've been used to a certain degree. That's been such a problematic situation. And then ultimately, once obviously you're arrested, they can search your vehicle for additional things as well. So that's been an ongoing issue that's been problematic for a while. So, absolutely.
Very true.
Just to speak on that, in Cincinnati, I don't know if it's everywhere, but in Cincinnati, the smell of marijuana is automatically getting people OVIs.
Yep.
And so, you touched on, Tim, something very important. I don't think a lot of people are spending a lot of time and energy on. We're spending this, we're on this person, but the contradicting message that we're sending in terms of cannabis and how it's affecting people who are not here, right? And so, on one end, we voted to say that cannabis, this is what we wanted, and then on the very other end, they've taken it away and almost not told us that they've taken it away. And so what I would like to have a conversation about, or what I would like to see is like, where do we go from here? What is the message that we should be letting people know? And also, what is the charge for each of us to do? Because I don't know if you guys touched on the timeline, but my next question would be, what is the timeline? What does that look like? Because everybody's saying it's not set in stone. So what is that timeline? And then how we can activate and actually bring this information out, because people don't know this. And so they're driving, like people are saying up there, my routine is to drive into where I'm going. And if you are caught driving into where you're going right now, and you get the wrong officer, you're getting hit with an OVI.
Yeah,
So it's crazy.
exactly. Ashley, right?
Yes.
Yeah, good old criminal justice reform, and I'll let the representative jump in here in a minute. I'm sure he's got something to say. In my testimony today, that good old magical phrase, probable cause. Here's the problem with cannabis in Ohio. When we created the medical program, the first thing I said after it passed was we created a 1% bill. And what I meant by that, we didn't protect the consumer, the patient. And we haven't, still today. We haven't updated our criminal laws that apply to cannabis. Technically, Ohio's medical cannabis program, hemp program, and the adult program are all three entrapment programs. They give you permission to consume cannabis, but you also have to sacrifice your driving license. You're not allowed to operate on the road, regardless if you've got what you have. You heard the 5 nanograms. You can literally take a 5 nanogram gummy and you're over the limit once you get into a vehicle. As far as what law enforcement's doing now, which I think is a sad thing, they've taken their focus away from alcohol because they know how many people are consuming cannabis. When they pull you over, a lot of them, the first things as they walk up to the car, do we smell like cannabis? Do we smell like weed? Yeah, most of the time we do. Why? Because it's in our clothing, it's in our hair. We smoked it in the car. We've consumed it in the car. That stuff can stay embedded in you forever. So you have to, as soon as they get that alert, that gives them that probable cause to now have you step out of the car and whatever monkey tricks they want you to perform. And it's the field sobriety tests, as I said, those technically aren't legitimate in the state of Ohio. But the point is now they've got you. They've got an odor of cannabis. It might be an odor of hemp. And that is something that was brought up to, at the last hearing, it was brought up again today, and a prosecutor brought it up today. Another legislator brought it up. I'll leave his name out. But I've got them both on the hook now. They want to take hemp and make it illegal to smoke because a law enforcement officer and a narco dog does not know the difference in the odor between cannabis and hemp. Bingo, I said, thank you very much. That means when you smell it coming from my car, it might be hemp. You don't know that. Hemp's legal, so you can't search my car no more. So these are things that we're working on, and hopefully with House Bill 160, that is some great information to send in an email to the legislator here of what your concern about that is. And we still have time to amend this. We still have time to do sub-bills. 160 is not set in stone, and it's not a law. It's a Senate or a House bill right now. Senate Bill 56, the other one, I'm pretty sure that's going to die real soon. And then also with the 2 hemp programs, the latter, or the first, the Senate Bill 86, most likely that's going to die when I think it's been referred to the House already. And we'll probably proceed with as the carrying bill will be the House Bill 160. But yeah, very good topic, very touchy subject in my opinion as far as probable cause. So we need to eliminate that. Peg?
Hey, I have a quick question. So, I live in 2 worlds, weed and words, and I was at a high school last week and they were doing a drug sweep with canines. Mm-hmm. I gently shut the doors so they didn't come into my classroom. But with that dog,
Peg. Bill's got bail.
I don't ever see Bill, so it'd be like, hey, Bill.
Yeah, there's a possibility. If you could walk through.
If a teacher had hemp,
yes, same smell. The narco dog is trained on the smell of cannabis.
Correct.
It's not trained on the smell. THC don't really smell.
Right.
It's not trained on a specific terpene, flavonoid, or whatever. This is trained just like an officer, on that product, as that raw flower and then on the burnt flower.
So if we look at the mentality of the school resource officers, I have another student that is in AP Economics, and he wanted to do a study on supply and demand of cannabis, and he got reported to the school resource officers. He had to be turned into the principal. They're like, well, Miss Peg owns the cannabis company,
Hell yeah.
But just the lack of understanding and education here. And my kid is smart enough to know how many parents are on Xanax or, whatever. You start listing all these things. And the kid was able to do it. I was so proud of him.
Yeah, well, that's good that he followed through.
Very.
And you have that right to do that. It's a First Amendment, in my belief, would be a First Amendment privilege at that time to what you're doing your project on. A lot of times, yes, the K-9 officers that come through the schools at the request of the school administration to come through, and they're looking for tobacco. Or not tobacco, I'm sorry, for cannabis.
Marijuana.
For that product and so forth. They're leaving out other things and so forth. But you always have the right to, if you think there's going to be an issue, to, all you got to do is identify yourself. You don't have to have no further conversation.
They already know.
Well, I'm just saying, for anyone, they can do that.
Yeah.
So, but
it was interesting because I had not seen a sweep like that for a while.
yeah,
It's just kind of interesting.
unfortunately, it was probably somebody snitched on something and it alerted them to come in, or that, they didn't have nothing else to do that day, so that's what they were gonna do. I've seen it happen hundreds of times, so.
Okay, thank you.
Kind of
Just
is
was
what it is.
curious. I assumed this.
I'm gonna say something real quick about this because not all officers are gonna be searching, because on 4/19 I was on my way to the Cannabis Museum. I just got a new truck. I got the new plates, but I still had her old plates on it. Accidentally pull out in front of somebody. I've had a lot going on in my life, so I just like wasn't paying attention, honestly. Pulled out in front of somebody. They turned the car behind him was the State Highway Patrol, right? So he gets on my ass. I'm like, damn, thinking about my plates. I got a full-size plant in the front seat. It's touching the ceiling. I got a box of 12 clones right there with him. And he pulls me over, right? And I said, dude, I'm on my way to the Cannabis Museum to teach these old ladies how to clone marijuana. What's up? Like, I just told him what I was up to, and he didn't question the plants at all. He didn't question me at all. He helped me put my new tags on my truck, honestly. He's like, well, get out, at least let me help you get squared away with this vehicle, man. He did not say anything about weed. Cause it's, I'm different too. Like, I used to be a drug addict, and I get pulled over, I'm in trouble, right? Now I'm going to the gym, I look him in the eyes, so he didn't see me as a criminal or somebody who's on drugs. He saw me as something different, but not everybody's going to get seen that way. But hopefully everybody gets the right cop. So, yeah.
Something I just want to point out to everybody, by the way, everybody that didn't hear me testify today, I'm James Powers. I work heavily in cannabis and veterans, both here in Ohio and nationally. Something I do know is that post the 2018 hemp bill, the majority of dog breeders and trainers for law enforcement have stopped by the instruction of the departments that are purchasing these dogs to train them on cannabis because of the ambiguity of cannabis versus hemp. No different than at the airports, the dogs you will see at the airports are not narco dogs. They are explosive detection dogs. So they're not, TSA's job is not to be the DEA. Their job is Transportation Safety Administration. Things that go boom and poke don't go on planes. Your vape pen, they don't care about.
Last year at the State House, I worked with two legislators, actually bipartisan, and we were tried to introduce a bill that would take $6 million out of the general fund. The goal is, and a lot of departments are doing it, and since we're on this topic, a lot of departments are getting rid of their cannabis-smelling canine dogs, and they're going to straight, cadavers, straight narcotic dogs, or straight bomb dogs for what's going on in the world and so forth today. And knowing that cannabis is being legalized, they know that they can be challenged in court and they can lose cases. So they're starting to become more creative, actually, with their cases that they build, and they're getting away from relying on the canine for smelling cannabis. So the goal last year, I think it was just over 300 canines in Ohio that they were going to take out of service or service them to another state, and then take that $6 million and purchase a new canine. Of course, they first started out, well, we want to pay for the officer and the canine. I said, the officer's already there. We don't need to pay for him. So it started at $60 million. I was able to get them down to $6 million, which was a realistic figure. That's how expensive these dogs are to get them trained and so forth. So we were going to get rid of them. And I think that that bill is dead now, but I think it will be brought back to life probably the next year or two, maybe in this session, we don't know. But that's the idea of it. As legalization that's coming along, law enforcement's going to find themselves losing a lot of cases by having a dog come and say it alerted on a car, it alerted on a building, it alerted on a person, it alerted on cannabis. And say, well, cannabis is legal, hemp's legal. You don't really have a good solid case in court now. So hopefully we'll see this happening real soon, and we'll see some replacements and so forth, what's going on. There are departments, I will say that I gotta give credit to OSP. OSP is the most proactive department in the state, probably because they're a state department, but they've been very proactive. Major Green, was a friend of mine when I worked the streets, worked just some incidents with him. I don't know, he might still be teaching there. It's possible, I haven't been there for a while. But he created programs there to start, as the cannabis program is progressing, so we're always, highway patrolmen progressing. The problems you're gonna find is like in small townships, small villages, small sheriff's departments. A lot of times these officers have not been schooled. there's no continued education units for them, and that's been introduced as well. They need to be educated. It needs to be mandated that every couple of years they go back. I don't care if it's an 8-hour class for the whole year, but that's what we need to start doing, and hopefully with the help of legislators like this, we can get some of that stuff passed.
All right. I'm trying to organize these questions over here. All right. This is going to be more like program focused. And so this is who is advocating for expanding qualifying medical disorders like autism? I would say we've been advocating to add more qualifications since day one and since the program even began, especially a lot of these neurological disorders, sleeping disorders, anxiety. I know for one, we've been like really trying to just talk about, and autism from day one I think was on the top of mind for many of us that have been continually trying to educate and push for that.
Yeah, autism has personally worked with legislators. We've introduced autism 3 years in a row, a different bill each year, and we would get so far. The 1 year, there's no reason why we shouldn't have passed it, but the 2 legislators backed off, and another body assured them that in this bill, we're going to include it in here where that bill failed, and they had already backed off of autism. We also have had, a few years ago, Senate Bill 9, that I had worked on again, that included unlimited qualifying conditions. And that was part of the language. And that was, believe it or not, I'm going to say the nasty name, Steve Huffman, and rest his soul, Kirk Schuring. I worked with them on that, and we were sure that this was going to pass. That gave a doctor the right to consult with the patient and recommend medical cannabis on any condition. Why do we have to have a qualifying condition? What other medications do we have qualifying conditions on? So it is, as Emily said, we've tried that many times down there to eliminate the qualifying condition list, and we're not done. Hopefully, I know it's irritating to a lot of people. This takes time. If you want to talk about irritating, talk to me. I've been doing it for 10 years, and a lot of things I've been trying to see get done just doesn't get done. So it's patience, and then over time, hopefully we'll get something in there.
All right, so the second question, I'm actually going to blend these two together because they're very similar. It's talking about prices in Ohio. I think a lot of the pricing comes down to cost of business. It's expensive for us to run our facilities. The fees we have to pay as operators are super expensive. Our labor costs are expensive. Everything in the industry as far as being an operator is expensive, including test costs. And so I think a lot of it is the trickle-down effect for just doing the cost of business. We are seeing prices come down. Like they are generally coming down over the last few years. We are seeing a dip. So we're hoping that, eventually those prices will stabilize. But that is what I would like to say on that. I don't know if anyone else in here wanted to comment.
Yes, I would definitely like to comment on this, right? So one of the main challenges I think a lot of processors are dealing with in this state right now, especially when they're not, vertically integrated, is having access to good flour that doesn't need remediated, that can be into the gummies, the tinctures, all the non-smokable flour, in my opinion. And I know there's a lot of people way more important than me that are going to hate when I say this, but if it ain't craft cannabis, I don't think it deserves the exploitation of our carbon footprint, period, right? All of the edibles, all of the tinctures, all of those products should be grown outdoors where we can utilize the sun. It's free. Let's use it, as my man Joey Elwood always likes to say, right? This is an unbelievable loss for us environmentally and on a state level that we can't come together and produce some change in this department. And then we get the same answer, I think, where people, oh, you can never do that because cannabis is so dangerous. You'd have to build a multi-billion-dollar fence to encompass all of it growing out in this field. when the fact still remains that a child can run through a field of cannabis, roll around in it, take a bath in it, sleep in it, use it for pillows, and they're still not going to have any harsh effects from that, right? We all know this, everybody in this room at least, you know, THCA needs converted to THC. Therefore, the plant itself is not dangerous. So then they go on to the sake of, oh, well, now robbery exists. Well, robbery exists because of the high prices, because we can't grow it outside. You know, like it all doesn't really make sense at all. But until we can come together with our voice and promote the real discussions that we should be having at these state houses, right? Like everything now is about, you know, the saddest thing about it is that there's a bill here that addresses expungement and at the same time puts criminal records and offenses into play. This is absolutely ridiculous. We just need to think about the irony of this situation and really hone in on what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. You know, you don't fence up hop plants on a hop farm before they're processed into beer just because they got myrcene and humulene all over them. Why? Because you can't run through the hops plants and get drunk. This is absolutely absurd. So until not only the state program can grow outside, where I don't know the statistics like Emily, I'm sure does, but in my head, I don't see how it equates financially that our prices are going to go down any realistic, in a realistic amount until we start using the sun. And with the state's hemp program, this is a big disaster too, right? Sorry, I'll complain about that later. Let's take some questions. Sorry for my rants.
Something that I think that also is something everyone in the room should keep in mind if they don't already know is a piece of IRS tax code. Anyone that's here in the industry already knows 280E, which absolutely makes it more expensive for the cannabis industry to operate because they are limited on their federal tax deductions. They get cost of goods sold, and that's it. The reason why so many cannabis companies can't have social responsibility programs is they can't write off nonprofit contributions. So, I mean, they would love nothing more, but I mean, it's got to be at least work into a standard business model, but I mean, they're not getting these tax deductions, and that is absolutely increasing their costs, regardless of what we do on, I mean, we can make state licensing $0 for everybody, or $1, but I mean, there's still gonna be the fact that, I mean, that these huge tax burdens that they're having to eat, because even though we're working on it here at the state level, there's still work nationally that also has to be done as well, and 280E is absolutely one. So it's something everyone's got to keep in mind is that, I mean, the tax man, what costs us, what increases cost, the tax man?
Exactly. What the young lady had to say.
I've got a couple questions that you just mentioned.
Speak
but
up.
I want to go back to, sorry.
Just speak up.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Hi guys, my name is Brianna. I'm a current college student at OSU. I do have a couple questions. My first one is what you mentioned earlier. What is OSP? I never heard of that before. And then you mentioned craft cannabis, and I want to know the difference at THCA and THC.
OSP is the Ohio State Highway Patrol. All right, and if you're from OSU, you guys still have SSDP there? Students for Sensible Drug Policy or any kind of cannabis thing? No, I didn't think so. Get a hold of me before I go, get my information, and I'll talk to you about who to hook up with down there. Are you familiar with Doug Berman with the DEPIC, Drug Enforcement Policy Center? Okay, you'll want to connect with them and get some info. They're at the Morris College of Law there. Speak with them and get involved with that. They got probably some of the best information in the state with the data they collect and so forth on that. But also, as I said, reach out to me and I'll give you some more information on it.
Brianna, what are you studying?
My major is advocacy with a minor in horticulture.
Nice. Amen. That's right up the alley.
For you.
get it.
Well, I have a feeling you're gonna do good there in that program, just based off of the questions that you're asking.
You wanna know the difference between craft and what?
Craft cannabis, you mentioned that earlier.
So yeah, craft cannabis, that I would qualify as growing craft cannabis. So I'm just a one-man operation. I got 2 tents I flower in. I grow really good genetics, and then I focus on mainly each plant, right? Each plant I grow, I don't run like a whole bunch of plants at once. I grow a variety. So I grow 1 tent, my 12 plant limit, I got 12 different varieties, right? That I like, or I'm trying new varieties. So I'm an experienced grower, so each plant requires different care. So craft is like just every day giving them plants that one-on-one care. And yeah, it's more of a person's energy or vibration is more into that plant, I guess. That's something I believe in, like a human-plant connection. Like my hip-hop music, my vibes, I feel like my plants, I was telling somebody, I was talking about my plants hear me cry, my plants hear me scream, my plants hear me be happy, sad, whatever. So then plants in turn, I feel like are addressing my issues. So I feel when people smoke my bud and they've told me they can feel my hip hop vibe, whatever, my positivity, my weed. So it might be far-fetched, but if it's something you believe in, that's what craft's about.
I would say specifically to referencing just craft in general, if you think of like craft beer, like you have a lot of local craft, like Happy IPAs, the local breweries, that's craft beer in comparison to like the Miller Lights and that sort of thing. So like, yeah, so
Like
like
local versus Walmart.
Yeah.
Small batch compared
Yeah.
to commercial. So instead of 100,000 square feet, you got 5,000 square feet.
Or smaller, yeah.
Brianna, I also got a lot to say about this topic, right? So I'm so glad that you asked it. Craft cannabis for me boils down to, cannabis that you're not consuming because it's a 35% THC, right? Cannabis is got such a rich expression of characteristics. Most craft cannabis people, they're not even looking at all the deceits and lies on the label and bag that gets in between you and your personal endocannabinoid system, right? Organoleptic compounds, flavors with rich aromas that come through super clear. It's like having an IPA from Jackio's. You can smell the difference before you even ingest it into your body. It's typically not over trimmed, right? A lot of people that are producing craft cannabis, they don't want those over trimmed buds touching up around all the glass, right? They want something protecting each and every bit of those trichomes. It also involves kind of inspection, right? One of the best tools for this, assuring that you're getting craft cannabis, is what they call a dyno light, where you can actually add magnification onto your plant surfaces to see how many of those trichomes are intact. And what's craft for one person is not necessarily the craft of the other. But I can tell you, for me personally, I just love cannabis and its rich flavors so much that I know that if I had my perfect weed strain, it would probably be 9 or 10% THC, because that allows more space for enriched terpenes, more minor cannabinoids, more flavonoids, right? Where the emphasis is not on getting stoned. It's like a wine, like a fine wine. You can go drink Carlos Rosé and get drunk all you want, but what's the experience, right? Like people in search of craft cannabis, they're judging it by the experience that offers them. Sorry to get so deep once again, but I love that question. Thank you for asking that.
If you would please share with her who you are and invite her to be.
Yeah, student, it's your spot.
Oh, yes. So if you ever want to, after you'll be so much more above this program, you'll be taking a little, because where you're going is an ag-related school, right? So you're in the right place if you want to be in agriculture. I unfortunately had to get my master's degree at a forest ecology school, but I did get it in sustainable agriculture, but it wasn't an agricultural program, right? You guys actually offer that. If you don't take your bachelor's degree into the MS program there at Ohio State, you might want to consider coming down to Hawking College. We got a pretty, well, I don't even want to say that. We got a heartfelt program that needs some work and some building done to it. But I think that's a good place to fit in if you want to learn to work for people like Panelist, which, by the way, I'll have to say, you should tour there as well because you're in town. They got a beautiful facility, immaculate, and as App Girls Cannabis, we have been to many, many processors across the state, and not one of them did I enjoy as much as going to Panelist. So that's right in your neck of the woods. You should definitely do that. But come to Hawking College too, if you want to learn how to test cannabis, test for cannabinoids, and use gas chromatography. And you'll get to intern with us at App Girls Cannabis. Oh, who wants, does anybody else want to answer this?
It ain't my strong suit. I don't like question that much.
No, she's on. She knows this.
We have that.
I got it.
Go ahead.
THC and THCA, the THC it's all THC. THC is just an acid that's attached to it. It's the precursor to it. It's what the flower is at the beginning stages. So
Eric got a good.
to get your THC.
You mind if I hop in real quick?
He's good, yeah.
One second. Now, the ways you get your THC off is called decarboxylation. That's how you get your THC from your THCA to THC. And that's where you degrade the acid off either by heat or time of oxygen and light.
So I will have to say that on the Ohio Cannabis Report interview that was done with Mr. Whited back here, that we should kind of let him also address this because his explanation was phenomenal, or the way he described it, I believe.
Thank you. So the easiest way I explain it to people is that everything that is grown, hemp contains numerous cannabinoids. Hemp that contains THCA is again, as you said very well, is that acid precursor, okay? So in that form, it is inert. It cannot make anybody high. It's not psychoactive. As it's decarboxylated, as that acid is removed, a double bond forms on the 9th carbon atom. That is what interacts with our body, the endocannabinoid system in the brain, to make you intoxicated. Delta 8 and Delta 10 both have the ability to do that. Both appear at normally under 1% in naturally occurring hemp and cannabis. So the problem with a lot of these Delta 8 and Delta 10s are that they are made out of CBN or other minor cannabinoids that are then synthetically altered to a tetrahydrocannabinol state, which is just, there's two ways that CBD and THC, that's cannabidiol and tetrahydrocannabinol, those are the two main ones that we're familiar with, but there are over 100 different ones in there. The THCA is going to be found in plants, it's going to be found in anything that has not been heated or broken down, and then when the acid melts and you get the double bond on the 9th carbon atom, that's when it becomes psychoactive. It can give us a high feeling, but CBG, CBD, all those other minor cannabinoids are what are responsible for activating the endocannabinoid system and giving you the full spectrum. Thank you.
Decarboxylation is a fancy word.
So lighting up.
Yeah, heating the acid. After it gets to 450 degrees, it will heat up the acid. That's why when you can eat a bud, if you eat a nug, it will not get you high. That's THCA, protected by acid.
Set it onto the field that not get high. Once you light it on fire, or you warm it up to a certain temperature, then it does
The science happens.
Go ahead, question back here.
Do you think if the standalone processors could purchase biomass from the craft growers, that would drive prices down for the consumers?
I think the standalone processors, the way that it's working out, correct me if I'm wrong, would be more likely to be in the position to buy from the hemp program. However, as talked about today, at this point, you know, the whole suggestion that we would take a federally compliant hemp product and throw it into a federally illegal state program I'm not sure how that all looks, but it seems to me like that's kind of a bad look. But we are fighting actively to try to get hemp. This is something I mentioned earlier that I feel pretty adamant about, and I want to make sure we touch on. The biggest problem that we, in my opinion, with the way that the hemp program is right now is that all of these products, all this sales that's even keeping our state program on its toes, like all of this stuff is from outside the state of Ohio. That's the main point. We're missing this. We're missing the agricultural care about, like nobody's thinking about, oh, we got an agricultural program here in the state of Ohio. Maybe we should support that by starting this discussion with our own hemp farmers. Instead, you got people like me that have been fighting and clawing for their way into the industry, and at this point, the only proper response we've ever got was buying hemp from Colorado and putting it into drinks that we cannot provide the flower for legally because Ohio's a total THC state. I never wanted to be that dude. I never asked, like, hey, can I build a cannabis operation based upon some out-of-state hemp from out west? But unfortunately, we gotta work with what we're given here in this space, but we can't lose sight of continuing to promote and fight for that change, right? Anything that supports sustainable agriculture or Ohio's agricultural system, that's what I stand behind, period.
I think that's a very good idea. Just one second, if I can. I believe our standalone processors are gonna get biomass, quality biomass, wherever they can get it from, that's legit. So they're within the program rules. Typically craft growers are looking for the flower, not so much of, I think one thing with craft growers, instead of focusing, as Josh said, on real high THC, is focusing on other cannabinoids, CBG, CBN, CBC, CBS, all these other ones. And that way you can get what's called a full profile product. You can get it 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, whatever it might be, rather than just as Ohio's, a lot of their cultivators are focused on how much THC can I get. They don't know about, I think it's, and you guys might know, it's one of the Ohio companies, Pure Ohio or somebody, actually has a hemp license where they cultivate it, and then once they process it, then they can bring it in through the actual program and use the CBG, the other cannabinoids other than THC. So what I'm gonna ask, and I'm gonna let something loose here real quick. We have an opportunity right now to, and Emily and I are addressing this, and hopefully we can get it in House Bill 60. I need everybody here to send an email to their legislator on House Bill 160, to Representative Muhammad, that we need our 14 standalone processors to be vertically integrated. No ifs, ands, or buts. They need to have that opportunity.
Concur.
Hey Josh, can I piggyback on what you said?
You sure can, Peggy.
All
Peggy wants to piggyback.
It's so important. The education is so lacking. The waters are so muddy with people understanding what is an Ohio product, a hemp product versus, the gas station. And I want to know where my food comes from. I want to know that I just bought Ohio strawberries, that they're from a field in Ohio. And I just don't understand. And I want to know where the traceability, our background is large-scale vegetable manufacturing. If there were any adverse effects, knew right away what farmer's field it came from. That is so important.
COAs.
How consumers don't have the same benchmark that they expect for their spinach, their ice cream, their cookies, or anything else in this industry just blows my mind.
Yep.
I agree. No, I come from food, and it's the same. I'm always astounded that we have such passion for what we put into our bodies with food, but then cannabis is this, like, how do I even know?
Right.
I grow my own food, I've raised my own meat, I believe in what I put in my body, and when I go in to get something from the metric system, I don't know what I'm putting in here, by and large. So where there's a huge disconnect. I'd like to know my farmer. I'd like to go to the farmer's market and get my tomatoes and my zucchini and my cantaloupe and my cannabis.
Yeah.
I can, and I do, but I do shitty at it. And somebody else does really better, and I like supporting that. Like, maybe this year my tomatoes are gonna pop off, but my cucumbers are gonna suck. I don't know, like, I would like people to go to my community and go, hey,
Hell yeah.
I grow a lot of tomatoes, and you grow a lot of cannabis, and you grow a lot of cucumbers, and like, this is where this is coming
And
from,
so
without it being so
Where's
abstract.
the community outrage, that if there are these products coming in from China or wherever else, and everybody's okay with it?
Because consumers in cannabis don't even know.
Correct. I
what-
know they don't know.
They,
That's the whole
they're literally
issue.
shopping for THC to put into their body for a psychoactive effect and not thinking about
Yeah.
the food component, the other components of what this is, because the education there is that you're trying to get high, that you just want to get your psychoactive effect, not the cannabinoid system and what it's doing, not what craft cannabis is and what it does for your body. The education needs to open up. Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Propaganda against cannabis was like $1 trillion industry.
Yes.
You know, the
Mhm.
propaganda.
Yep.
So,
For
so
decades.
the reality is that not only do we have to use our voices, we're gonna have to put some money behind messaging and getting the people to realize this is effed up.
That cannabis is safer than anything we eat, drink.
Definitely.
That's the messaging, right? And so it's propaganda, like let's call it what it is. People still have stigma because of propaganda, because of misinformation, and because our attention span is 8 seconds. And so you have 8 seconds to get someone's attention and tell them what's wrong, and that's what they're hearing, and that's what they're hearing. And then, you know, of course they have their family member that uses cannabis, but they're judging them, they don't know. And so the propaganda to debunk those things has to be as strong, and it has to come with some money attached to it from people who actually give a.
We're fighting
Yeah.
alcohol.
And
That's who we're fighting.
that's what-
Alcohol-
That's the money.
Alcohol runs the
Healthcare
commercials
too.
of all the
Well,
politicians, so we're fighting
well, and
alcohol, which still runs the commercials. Look at the Super Bowl. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So that's who you're talking about, but that's the fight. So,
We're
so that
fighting
is,
alcohol, we're fighting pharma, and we're fighting big food.
absolutely,
Right.
but
And I think
alcohol
that's-
is
It is, no.
And that's also why it's so important that I think us as operators, activists, hemp folks, all of us, all across the board need to be unified and have more events like this, thanks to Anthony and others that are continually bringing us all together. Because we have to be unified, we have to talk about this and all the different pressure points, because that's how we normalize and legitimize our industry. And us as operators, as Benelli's, we're having those conversations every day. Like, hey, that's why we invite lawmakers, general public, anybody that we possibly can. All of you here today, I'll leave a stack of my cards and you let us know when you want to come through. But that's the crux of the conversation is look at, this is not the stigma, this is not what, you know, you've been told for the last, you know, however many years, how bad this plan is. This is an operating industry that has benefits and jobs and careers, and people have built their lives from this industry. And so I think, you know, all of us together, we need to continue this momentum, this call to action, write your legislators, you know, talk to folks like us, like we're on your side. Like we want to all work together to figure this out and normalize this industry, but it's going to take all of us working together for that in order for that to happen. I will say we only have probably about 5 more minutes for some closing remarks. We'll take a few more
I
questions.
just want to add something,
It's
sorry.
not hemp versus cannabis.
Yes, absolutely. I do
Not
want to say that
hemp
too,
versus
and I sound like a
You guys
broken
don't follow
record.
the food
And
labels.
I was
You
actually
don't
just
follow the
talking
food
with Joey and the Appalachian Girls early about this today, where it is so incredibly crucial for us to all understand also that this whole conversation has also got incredibly muddied between, you know, just medical cannabis, legal cannabis, adult use cannabis operators, right? And then the local hemp farmers, and then all of the stuff that we're seeing and the gas stations and all of that that's coming from China and everywhere else. That's the bad stuff. That is the stuff that's not tested, that's filled with God knows what, all the chemicals. That's the stuff that's making people sick. And what we need to understand, and what we're trying to educate others on too, is that we are on the same side. Operators, local hemp farmers, the folks that are doing it right and proper and getting their products tested, we're all on the same side. It's us trying to combat all of this stuff coming from out of state that is not tested, that's not regulated, that is actually getting into the hands of children. And we are seeing the statistics from that Nationwide Children's, Ohio State, we're seeing adverse effects from those products. And so, yes, thank you, Peggy, for pointing that out. All right, a couple more questions. Yes, ma'am.
It's not more of a question, but I would say, in your opinion, for us to basically, what I'm hearing, is trying to rebrand cannabis because of the history and the propaganda got put on before the Great Depression, around the Great Depression. If you think about it, the United States didn't even know what this plant was. If you think about the history of jazz music, we used to talk about it and sharing black and brown communities that promote it. And if you talk about 1960, when we had the U.S. Narcotic Department who targeted the black and brown community when the incarceration rate went up due to this plan. And now we got the state levels of trying to show quality, so reverse it, but at the same time not trying to reverse it. But just for that to be said, trying to shape this brand, I believe it's more bigger than the state level. I don't think we're gonna have a voice until it becomes federal. And that's coming from a college student who's trying to get into the industry, but having the president shut us down saying professionals can't promote cannabis because it's not federally legalized. Ohio State is a federal state college versus going to California or Colorado. You gotta get support or get connections out of state, but knowing this industry, you need money or need certain connections. So in your opinion, how can you come as a state people to reshape this brand of cannabis and push it at a state level to get to a federal level?
Brianna, can you email me at joshc@girlscannabis.com sometime? I sure would like to connect with you when we have more time too, because.
And I will say too, just encourage your friends, everybody you know, your colleagues to come to events like this, come down to the State House when they do have hearings and testimony like there was today, to have your voice heard, because we need it. It is a very big fight, and honestly, in my opinion, we'll get to July, and it's still gonna be a fight after that, because there's gonna be several different amendments and a lot of different change. It's gonna be very continuous, and it's gonna take us some time, but I think we have a really good positive momentum right now. We have events like this often. There's several expos, there's a lot of different events that go on all the time. There's a lot of different cannabis meetups as well. Broderick is sitting right behind over there with his little green hat on. You can connect with him as well. He knows all the different cannabis meetups and stuff like that too, which is a great way to network and meet others in the industry also.
I do too. I know, I go to all of them. So usually every weekend I'm at something, whether it's a farmer's market or like a trap event. So you can get I'll give you my information too.
In the back.
Yeah, sorry, you had touched base earlier on us kind of coming together to go against these imported products from China and elsewhere. I'm assuming that those products are probably vape devices if they're coming in from China. Is that what you were referring to?
So what we're referencing is all the products that are incredibly appealing to children. It was actually super interesting because Jamie Callender had one on the floor today that he showed, and it actually said like Hawaiian Punch on it, and he was referencing that as there being no labeling other than it was just a vape cart. So it's yeah, it's vape carts. We're seeing a lot of edibles also that are having adverse effects, which we know generally. We don't know specifically if it's the adulterated THC or if it's the high level of pesticides, because we know things get hyper-concentrated in the end product. We just don't have that data right now.
I guess how hard would it be to set in legislature that would have those products tested?
I mean, we have had those products tested. Yeah. Throughout our colleagues and just different various organizations.
I'm saying so that we knew that they were safe for the market.
I'm sorry, say that again?
So that we knew that those products were safe for the market.
Yeah, and that's something we're actively working on, is trying to implement, third-party testing for folks and local hemp farmers, that sort of thing, the people that are doing it properly, to be able to test those products to get those into the market. Right now, the battle is, technically, all these products that, are coming in from out of state that are actually making people sick in these vape shops and other various storefronts.
I think we're just being a little too general with saying these products and not necessarily getting down to the specifics, the nitty-gritty of what products and what cannabinoids or synthetic cannabinoids
I totally agree with
the
you.
rest of what we're talking about, because, I mean, if we're talking about companies importing products that are, you know, untested here in Ohio and then selling them to the state, that is also something that a lot of cannabis processors within the state have to do because of the regulation to limit the potency within the products.
Here's what that comes down to. I think your whole topic there is we got products coming from we don't know where. We don't know what the product is. They're untested, they're unregulated, and we are seeing harm to not only children but to adults. So if those people, those companies want to become compliant under Ohio law and Ohio regulation and pay the same amount of fees these license holders have paid, or they want to get their products on the shelves in Ohio, then that's what they're going to have to follow. But at this point, it's more of a safety issue on that product. We're not saying they're bad products. What we're saying is, when you go to the store and buy a product, you ever look at the ingredients on it?
Absolutely.
Okay, you know what's in there, right? These products don't. They have no profile on
I
it.
would say that that
So
would
for
be
edibles
on
and
an
Ohio
employee
Spectrum program.
case, right? Again, we're not being specific with the products,
Be real
or
about it.
where these products are coming from that we're talking about here. We're generalizing products across the board, which I don't think we should be doing.
Well, we're not generalizing all products. We're generalizing products that are popping up in unregulated places.
Exactly.
Okay, that's the problem, all
But
right?
if the
So,
place is unregulated, that doesn't necessarily mean that the product is unregulated.
well, the products don't have anything on them except it says THC product, or THC product, right? So how do you know what's really on there? You remember back when we had K2, the K12s or whatever the stuff, when you basically you were buying catnip with some unknown chemical sprayed on it?
Familiar, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. Did you want to keep smoking
The
that?
propaganda we're talking about, man.
That's apples to oranges.
No, it's not. There's a big issue in Ohio and across the country. That's what legislators are going
I
after right
agree.
now.
And across the country, we need to specify on what products are the problem and what products are not the problem.
We're doing that.
I haven't heard any specific.
How many days have you been at the State House?
Okay, well,
How many times? How many committees?
sorry?
How many committees at the State House have you sat in on? How many legislators have you met in their office with?
I've watched you at the last 3.
All right, I've been there for 10 years. We've been addressing this for a long time.
I know.
And the hammer's coming down now. That's just what's gonna happen. If you wanna be compliant in a program in Ohio, just like we don't let moonshine from back in the holler of Tennessee show up on the liquor shelf in a state liquor store.
Right.
So if you want it to be on that liquor shelf, then you're gonna have to be compliant.
I understand.
It's kinda what it comes down to.
Agreed, with cannabis licenses and their success rate as a business, how do we, I guess, compare that to these other licenses that you're comparing it to, right? As a liquor business, what is your success rate as a startup business owner compared to the success rate of these struggling business owners here in the state?
Struggling business as far as for the unregulated products?
No.
For the current license holders that are compliant with the rules of the program?
Correct.
I think a lot of it, yeah, they've lost a lot of business to the unregulated industry, to the loophole from the Agriculture Improvement Act of
But how many
2018.
businesses have gone out of business?
We haven't seen them necessarily go out of business. We've seen people turn back in dispensary licenses that were given to them. We've seen a lot of turnover. 62%, the last that I heard of, people that were turning it over because it just wasn't the industry for them. I don't think that has anything to do with the product, though. You're talking about products that are coming from possibly foreign countries or even this country. I'm all about homegrown, believe me, and people having that right to do that and so forth. But for a pop-up company, just to, and this is what we're seeing, you find a storefront, you open up the door, and you start selling weed out of it.
Okay.
That's in a plastic baggie. Okay, back in the old days, yeah, that's how I dealt. That's how it was. That's what we got. Glad baggies. They made billions off of the cannabis industry, if not trillions.
I know.
Okay?
All right, well,
But that's
thank you
not what
very
we're seeing
much.
now.
We have time for 2 more questions, and I think the 2 are in the back. Yes, sir.
Hey, how y'all doing? My name is Joshua Ward. I'm one of the founders of 5 Genius. And my question is, I hear a lot of things being talked about, but it ain't none about social justice and the black market and why the black market is there, because it's limited opportunity. Limited opportunity to those being affected by the people who sold cannabis. So they sold cannabis to try to survive, then they got it on their record, then they get out and try to get clean, then they try to come to the industry, then they can't even get a job. And then you talk about getting licenses, you gotta have all type of assets, you can't even get certain assets with felons. You you can't even go get certain bankrolls with felonies. So to line it up for the average Joe to get in the industry is almost impossible. So and then the first thing on the chopping block is equity. You feel me? So that's why the black market is there, and that's why it's a big, huge issue, and that's not really being talked about. You know what I'm saying? So I just really want to understand, how do we hooray around that? You know what I'm saying? And addressing the real issue, because that's where the money is in the black market.
Well, I think
that's the biggest competition. And those in the black market that have changed their life, they ain't did none, you know, dangerous, no pedophilia, no rape, no nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? They don't even got a change.
Yeah, no, you influencer of the year right here, ladies and gentlemen.
That's it through the last event.
Congratulations. I feel you, brother, I feel you. But you're speaking to the choir. Social justice, criminal justice reform we've been working on since the creation of 523, starting back in 2015. It's been a hot topic. We don't I try to not refer to the black market because of what it refers to, or refer to rather as the legacy market or the illicit market. The expungements they have in House Bill 60 right now, it's another thing you can tell your legislators, it's a joke, we already have that program. Okay, so we don't need that. What we need is expungements for felony 4s and felony 5s possession charges. That's what we need so people can get a job. So that companies like yours can become legitimate. You know, as far as with, what the state's wanting to put in place for regulations, and you can, sell those products. That's what we want. We want more businesses. That's why we're fighting to keep the 50 dispensaries and the 40 level 3s. Those 90 businesses could bring 300 to 400 more businesses to the state of Ohio. That's a big business impact for Ohio. So that's what we have to do. But you're exactly on, and that's exactly what you need to send to your legislators. It's not that they haven't heard it, but they continue to hear it. They need to continue to hear it. That's what we need to get across to them.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for attending. Oh, we got one more. All right, one more question.
Oh, no, I didn't really have, if, I'm his sister, I'm a genius. And I guess my last thought or last message or thought process would be, I talked about the $1 trillion. I didn't say that to scare anybody. I just wanted everybody to make them aware that we're in a huge fight. And it doesn't take $1 trillion to combat that. The people in this room, you have brought it really far. You know what I mean? Like, so my charge is just to bring it even further, right? And it's not, and I think the issue is too, when my brother had the conversation, it sounds like it's us versus them, right? It's legit versus non-legit. And that's what legislators do. They put the people against each other. Instead of us saying, wait, you represent us.
Yeah.
And so it's all about telling our legislators, but it's also about coming with the numbers. We have this. We need to break down who's doing this and who's doing that. That's what I mean about messaging, because we have to be creative because they spent that $1 trillion. So it's,
Yep, that's good.
It's all about unity, Ashley. It's about unity. And that's what everybody in this room, the hemp people, and I know Emily has hit on it. Unity, unity, unity. It's something that her and I have talked about recently. It's a hemp and cannabis people, the community, hemp and cannabis community against the legislators.
Call to action is unity.
We are all fighting so hard for these level 3 licenses. Does anybody really understand how much they want for those and how realistic it is for any one of us in this room, unless we all come together cooperatively to even obtain one of those? They're not even obtainable for the average person who has been affected disproportionately. So don't get your hopes up, because even if they reignited the whole program, we can't afford it. It's not really what it is.
That's why Girls Cannabis.
You're not fighting to get that back. You're fighting to have craft cannabis that is small batch, that is, you're able to actually grow, where the license is $500 and you can get it tested and you can take it to Panelist and you can say, listen, I got some CBN heavy plants here and I want to sell them to you. They're tested, they got a COA, and that is small batch. This level 3 stuff is bullshit.
Yeah.
You can't afford it.
Get 'em.
Awesome.
Is there anywhere in the legislation that we're currently talking about?
right,
Can I just make a comment on a couple things you're saying here? I think it's really important to organize. I think we're talking about fighting propaganda. I wanted to ask you, actually, Emily, you've been a big inspiration for me. I just accepted a community outreach manager position for a level 1 cultivator. They're allowing me to participate in and engage in conversation. We are part of OCAN, and that's not something I'm personally proud of, but we are part of a great organization that we have to be in this state because that is how the business is done. And I think that anybody that's part of that organization, we just saw OCAN submit proponent testimony for this bill. How can we organize? I mean, we're an entire community coming out here. When the license holders are organizing and kind of supporting the current legislation, those are the people that have the money, not the people here. So from somebody who works for a successful organization that speaks to the State House, how can we organize together and request changes from OCAN? Because yes, we can demand stuff from the legislators, but OCAN are the people that we all work for, that we buy from, and that we support with our money every day in the state. So how can we ask for better from them while still participating in that market with them?
No, that's a great question, and something that I have been actively and intentionally trying to think about for the last 6 months is how do we, that's why I keep saying unity and this call to action for unity, because I started off as an activist. I started off with, Tim and I go back day one. I started off with, oh my gosh, it was, what was that first bill? Oh my gosh, what was it called?
523.
With Mary Jane, yeah. Way back as an activist.
Ohio Rights Group.
Thank you, Ohio Rights Group, thank you. So, I started off in activism, so I believed that life. I was I stood outside of the State House holding a sign that said, "Free the plant," 20 years ago. I did. I started a nonprofit before there were even any dispensaries open in order to help folks that couldn't afford their medical marijuana cards at the time, because at the time, doctors who had their certificate to recommend were charging anywhere from $50 to $100, all the way up to $600 in some cases out of pocket. And so my heart is with helping people and justice and making sure that all of our voices are heard. And that was another, part of my nonprofit work also, is that I was trying to have a platform for people to have a voice. And we brought out patients, and Tim and Wendy helped me so much in those early days, bringing people out. So I bleed activist. Then I went to dispensary, and dispensary retail was a whole world. And I saw very quickly, how much regulation and restrictions was affecting people and humans. I've always been an activist. I've always been, fighting for justice. I think when to kind of fast forward to OCAN and Panelist and all of these different companies that are trying to work together, we're trying to unify that message to speak for everybody. And I don't sit up here speaking as OCAN. We speak for Panelist. I speak for myself as an advocate. I'm on the marketing committee. And so one of the things that I'm passionate about with marketing and education is educating and how do we bring people together. And like I said, for the last 6 months, I'm how do we bring, and even Tim and I were just talking about this the other day, how do we bring the activists, the old guard, the people who have been working and bleeding this for years together with operators like ourselves, like Panelist. We're a standalone processor. We're a little guy in this big world of, a lot of bigger companies than us. But we're part of OCAN. We like the benefits. We get to work with the Department of Cannabis Coalition. We get to speak with them and have great relationships with them. It's a great organization, and I think one of the things that we are trying to do is to unify and kind of get rid of that communication gap and work together. So I would love to sit down and talk with you more on ways that you think would be able to do that. I'm open to any and all conversations surrounding that, because we do all need to work together.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that I'm incredibly passionate about, so I would love to work with you on that.
Let me be the devil's advocate here real quick, and I'll be nice, I promise.
Oh, no.
First, let me tell you this, OCAN doesn't run this program, the legislators do. OCAN has a slight membership of some of the license holders. If anybody's at fault in this room to giving OCAN a bunch of crap, you can blame that on me. I don't have a problem giving OCAN a bunch of crap, because I think their focus is wrong. We're already working on the gas station weed. OCAN needs to focus on getting these people vertical license. They need to focus on marketing rights. They need to focus on criminal justice reform. They need to focus on putting people at the POS system, not their silly little things. You don't buy your weed at a gas station. No, we don't. We buy it from dispensaries or from legitimate farmers, or we grow it ourselves. We understand that. But I think OCAN's focus is headed the wrong way, and they know how I feel about them. I know how they feel about me. They don't sign my paycheck, I don't sign theirs. But OCAN does not control this. The legislators are who you gotta reach out to. If you wanna see change in this program, see things happen, that's how you do it. The lawmakers do it, not OCAN.
Who's paying the lawmakers, man?
Exactly.
Where is the money that they're going to the lawmakers? We can see on OpenSecrets.org, we can see where Huffman's money comes from. We have to go after the people who are paying them as well. And
He's
so
got an
those
email.
parts of the conversation are important, and they are doing that. It's important that we bring that to them. So thank you for your work, but we can take care of this part.
Well, you take care of it at the State House, physically showing up in the rooms, the committee hearings, testifying as you did today and so forth with respect, so forth. That's how you take care of it. You're gonna get it done, and don't expect it to happen overnight.
All right, thank you all so much. I left my cards up here as well. If anyone would like to connect with me, you have further questions, please take them. We also love to give tours, so if you would love a tour of our facility, please grab a card.
I just want to again thank all of y'all for coming tonight. And now we're going to start the mix and mingle part of our endeavor here, so feel free to talk. You got the
There's an after hours
after
at the
8:30,
hotel.
we have backwoods somewhere else.
Hey, Riley said something about breweries.
Good. I'm doing well.
Where you from?
I'm from Youngstown originally, but I went to college at OU, and now I live in Asheville, Ohio. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I remember talking to you.
Joey.
I just talked to a lot of people. That's what's up, bro. So what do you do?
Yeah, so I work at Cardinal Health remote in their licensing compliance department. I help opioids not get shipped to, like, over shipped to prescribers' offices, pharmacies, and stuff like that. And I also make